Welcome to Islamic Knowledge Hub, authentic Islamic teachings, wisdom, and inspiration. Subscribe and grow with knowledge.
So, what does it really mean to believe? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating text that breaks down the very architecture of faith in Islam. It does this through what it calls the Rights of Mustafa, which are the rights of the Prophet Muhammad. It's an incredible framework, so let's jump right in.
And this is the big question we're going to be exploring. What are these foundational rights? Now, the text we're looking at doesn't lay them out like a simple to-do list. Instead, it presents them as this deeply interconnected system for what it truly means to be a believer. Let's see how it all comes together. All right, first up, and this is the most critical one, is what the text calls the right of affirmation. You have to think of this as the absolute starting point. It's the very root from which everything else in a person's faith is meant to grow. It is the core of the core. Let's dig into this term, tasdeeq. The source is really clear that this is not just about, intellectually agreeing with something. It's an unconditional, deep-down conviction in the truth of the Prophet's entire message. And that includes everything, not just what you can see and touch, but also the unseen, the concept known as al-ghaib. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it means accepting the message as a whole, no picking and choosing. It's about placing your trust in the unseen simply on his authority. And maybe most importantly, it's a conviction that has to be totally free of doubt. This is the bedrock that everything else is built on. Okay, so you have this internal belief, this affirmation, but it's not supposed to just sit there quietly in your heart. It's meant to lead directly to action. Think of it this way. If affirmation is the foundation of the house, what you believe inside, then following is the actual structure you build on top of it. It's how you act out in the world. And that brings us perfectly to our second right, the right of following. This is where belief gets real. It becomes tangible. This is the practical, lived-out expression of that first right. It's all about turning belief into an actual way of life. The key term here is ittiba, or following. And according to this text, it's way more than just obeying a list of rules. It's also about emulation, actively trying to adopt his character and his conduct and weaving his traditions, the Sunnah, into the fabric of your daily life. So how do you do that? Well, this slide breaks it down into 3 pretty clear steps. It all starts with obeying the explicit commands, the instructions about worship and law. Then it gets more personal. You move on to emulating his character, things like honesty, compassion, patience. And finally, it's about integrating his way of life into your own routine. So we've got belief, and we've got action, but the third right adds this incredibly important third dimension, the emotional, the spiritual part of it all. This is the right of reverence, and it's described as the devotion of the heart. The term for this is ta'zim, and the source text is very specific. This isn't about doing something. It's about cultivating an internal state of being. We're talking about a profound sense of honor, of respect, and critically, a deep love that is meant to permeate a believer's entire attitude. And what does this reverence look like? The text gives some powerful examples. It's things like honoring his name when you hear it, respecting his teachings, and avoiding anything that could possibly diminish his status. But just look at that second point. The text calls for a love for him that is greater than your love for yourself, for your family, and for every other person. That's profound. And this is a point the source absolutely hammers home. This deep, profound love isn't presented as some kind of optional extra for people who are especially devout. No, it is framed as an absolutely essential, non-negotiable part of faith itself. Okay, so we've looked at affirmation, following, and reverence. Now let's pull it all together and see why these 3 concepts are so important as a whole and how they really create a complete picture of faith. This table sums it all up beautifully, using the metaphor of a tree. Affirmation, that core belief, that's the root system, deep underground. Following are actions. Those are the branches that grow out from those roots. And reverence, that deep love and devotion, well, that's the fruit that the tree ultimately bears. And that right there is the biggest takeaway. The source material couldn't be clearer that these are not 3 separate boxes you can just check off. It's a single, living, integrated system. The belief fuels the action strengthens the reverence, and that reverence deepens the belief. It's a cycle where they all reinforce each other.
So let's end with this thought. We've just walked through this incredible theological framework. The real question to reflect on now is, how do these 3 interconnected pillars, belief in the heart, action in the world, and reverence in the soul,
continue to shape the daily lives, the ethics, and the entire worldview of more than 1 billion people across the globe right now.